is the young bird racing loft that I used last year. This is Ghost. He is human bandit cross. He's a beautiful big fella. And over here in the garage, I've built a temporary loft. Difficult to see, but what you're seeing here is actually the doors off of our bathroom shower. And in here we have four hens. One's 2-year-old. This one here. She was in my fight loft last year, but she wasn't very fast, so I pulled her. The other 3 hens are, we believe, Delbar background. I haven't got the pedigrees for them yet. And one is a young Delbar male, the cock. So, anyway, this is just a tarped loft, believe it or not. Ceiling in the back wall and the other walls are solid. It's very temporary. I put it in last spring. And the idea was to race young birds out of it, which I didn't have that many. And I ended up having a lot of other birds, males, I needed to put by themselves. So I stuck them in here instead and used the little loft for my small racing team. And sadly, I got them trained out too late because I was breeding for the first time. I had birds before, and when I cut back from about 70 to 2 families, I had a, what do you call it, a little weasel thing got in and killed my breeding pairs. Now, in here, there's 3 separate nest boxes. And over here I have my Janssen Cock. His name is Slatey. I'll get in there and take a closer picture in a second. And Black Widow hen that I just got off Bill Rustin. It's a beauty. And in here there's 2 Black Widow. There's a cock and a young hen. They're only yearlings. And in here I have a Delbar hen mixed with a Black Widow cock. They're going to be producing youngsters for my racing team this year. I've separated the 3 nest areas with curtains, heavy curtains here, and it's to help keep the fighting of the cocks down and the breaking of eggs and all that stuff. Hey, there we go. That's Slatey, the Janssen Cock that's closest, and in the back there is the Delbar, the Widow hen. Here's Slatey. And then they've got a little food container here, which they got some straw in. And they have a water bottle here, so they have water and feed right in the nest. These, I couldn't find any ceramic or any nest bowls that were clay, so I got ceramic ones, and in the bottom is some grit and some wood pellets, and then the straw goes on top of that. And by the time they do put some droppings in there, it'll be nice and firm. You won't get any splayed legs on the youngsters. But right now, this is the first time these 2 have been together. I put them together yesterday, I believe it was. And she's pretty nervous. He's been wooing and cooing and chasing her and driving her, as they call it. Right. She's hiding behind his tail there. But she has produced winners for Bill Rustin. She comes from David Ottaway's loft. Bill bought her as a youngster off of some widows that Dave had that were producing winners. And Bill approved her and bred a family off of her. Well, he used her as a breeder and bred a family, improved the youngsters. So she has been breeding excellent youngsters. And in here, this is one of her youngsters, the one with the white feathers, the white tail feathers, or wing feathers, and a beautiful little black diamond hen. They are both yearlings, so I'm not expecting a lot, but hopefully they will produce some young this year. And those young will be part of a family I'll be using to cross later. And in here, if I can get this one open, this one doesn't like, oh, it's playing nice. Like I said, there's a nice black widow cock. He's a young one. Actually, he's got a colored band, so he's 2 or 3 years old, I believe. And she is a yearling. And beautiful, beautiful. I mean, she has the best wing I have ever seen on a bird. The build of her body is just exceptional. She is going to produce some really fast young cocks. And like, she's from the Delbars, which are a proven strain as well. Whether or not she has anything else mixed into her bloodline, I'm not 100% sure. Bill's going to give us the pedigrees for those, and then we'll know. Bill moved up closer to us a while ago. Here's the list. Rearing YBs, young birds, in cold weather. And it's literally a list from gentlemen who have flown for years. David Ottaway, what was the other fellow's name? Mike Vanderjag. Guys like this I've been talking to online, and I was concerned because I've had youngsters pass away from the cold in the past. And they explained that's because I had perches for the birds to sit out on, and when they start mating for that second round, sometimes they don't sit on the youngsters. Well, that's because the perches are there and they can come out, and if you don't have that, then they'll just turn around and stay in the box. The cockbird sitting on the... I had to put tape. Okay, I'll explain this because it looks ridiculous. The birds here have never seen glass before. Some of the ones from Mr. Rustin. And so they were allowed to fly around here in this little loft I made up. Now this is scraps, bits and pieces that I have collected over the years of wood that I put together into nice little boxes. This one's huge. It's full length, so it's 4 feet long. It's 18 or 20 inches deep and 16, I believe, high. Right. This is a Delbar hen from Bill Rustin, and this fellow right here, he is a Rossa Blanc. He came out of the States, I believe, if I remember right. He was purchased by someone as a young bird, bought at an auction off of proven breeders, and I have his pedigree, and he has an excellent pedigree. So far I've only produced one youngster, one young hen off of him, and unfortunately she didn't fly well. So it could have been I should have kept her as a breeding stock. You just never know, right? It's Russian roulette sometimes. But he's a pretty big boy. He's not as big as some. I have 2 birds here and 2 here that are probably from the Delbar lines. I'm sending those to my friend Mike. He's going to allow them to breed and fly as old birds. In here, there, that beautiful boy there with the checks on him. I call him GRC, which is short for Good Racing Cock. He literally was flown in races and proven down south. And he and the Rossa Blanc cock and the Janssen cock came from a gentleman named Rio who lives in Scarborough. Rio, when he found out I was starting over, he gave me several birds, and it was awesome. That's a young Delbar hen that's with him. She has one of the best wings of anything I've seen as well. I think the other bird that I mentioned that about is her sister, because because of the band numbers being consecutive. And yeah, her constitution is gorgeous as well. That water needs changed. I'll do that as soon as I'm done filming. Changed them this morning, but sometimes it happens. Shouldn't, but it does. In here, this is my hen I call Vale. She is a banded Muleman cross, and this is her half-brother, and he's from a Muleman line, and on the dad's side, and Muleman banded cross on the mom's side. I got some birds off of Frank Jugdot. Purchased a few young birds for a race team, and when their mom came, she was pregnant with this one. She dropped the egg, and then the male that I had with her, the Muleman, mated and produced this little guy. So they ended up on my race team and did very well for being, training and everything. Like I said, I didn't actually get to race last year because by the time I was done breeding, it was so late in the year. Let's turn this around here. It was so late in the year that I just got the birds trained out when the cold weather hit and fall kicked in and they started molting really bad. And we got through that and thought, well, we'll have a later race, and we ended up with freezing temperatures. Snow flying around and ice forming. And the other fellows that were planning on doing it with me, only one of them was ready out of 3 others, so there would have been 4 of us. But this year coming up, Bill Rustin is going to race with us for fun. We call them swap races. I would bring my buddy's birds, or my buddy would bring his birds up here. I'd give him some of mine, or we'd meet halfway and switch them, and then we would release them from our own home lofts, and that would give us exactly the same distance. Somebody might be fighting the wind on one day and the other guy fighting the wind on another day, but if we do that a few times a year, it's only 100 kilometers to my one buddy, and pretty much the same, or just a little bit less than that, like between, say, Bill Rustin and I, but my buddy Mike Ives and I, it's exactly 100 kilometers. So we get a chance to test some of our birds, and see how they do before we actually end up forming an official club, you might say, right? Because that is our hope. We want to start a club called Aces North. My buddy has birds from Bill Rustin as well. He had given up for a little bit on pigeons, and so had I because of the weasel. And Bill gave us so many birds, it's incredible. Now my buddy Mike had also bought some from down south, but when he got Bill's birds, he saw the difference in them. Those are crackerjack birds. And Mike's going to be breeding some of them and flying them with the, I think, Aurelia Club this year. But he's also going to have some fun with some of his other birds that aren't so, how can I put it? He's got birds that haven't been tried. He's going to produce youngsters off of. And then he's got the ones from Bill. And the ones from Bill are going to the Aurelia Club. And those boys are going to need some help if Mike trains those seriously, because they've been proven time and again in David Ottaway's loft and in lofts before that and in lofts since that, right? But anyway, that's a little video. That's breeding the birds and just the simplicity of it, I guess. Okay, that's all for now.